my shiny teeth and me. My shiny teeth that twinkle just like the stars in space. My shiny
Vigorous use of a sharp explorer leads to cavitation, and which can lead to dental plaque getting trapped and lesion progression.
Baby, come give me something.
Wow, Alex, love the dance. Did you know that occlusal caries detection with tactile examination with an explorer is actually inaccurate? Worse still, the explorer can damage a white spot lesion by breaking through the relatively intact surface zone. Let's take a look at this picture. If you look here, that is a white spot lesion from occlusal caries. And so if you try to use an explorer to detect it, you will just break right through that surface. Yep, that's about it for me.
Wow, great stuff, Court. Since we're on the topic, let's talk about some more things to watch out for when detecting occlusal caries. The first things to look for are discoloration and opacities. Discolorations will range from varying shades of yellow to brownish blacks, while opacities will appear as opaque, demineralized white areas with no translucency. It's also important to note any cavitations in opaque or discolored enamel. Next, we want to look for localized enamel breakdown. In this cross-section of a tooth that I've drawn, you can see the area of enamel which appears to be demineralizing, which began occlusally and is steadily approaching the dentin. If you remember back to oral histology, enamel is microscopically composed of 3 parts: enamel rods, surrounded by interrod enamel, and also the rod sheaths. Ah, good times. When the enamel begins to break down, the enamel crystals are essentially being dissolved, which is the chemical basis for caries. You can also detect occlusal caries tactily. What you're looking for is a distinct softness in suspected pits and fissures, not with aggressive probing like this, pew, 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 but gentle probing like this. Oh, that's soft. We got a cavity, y'all. Our last means of detecting occlusal caries, and meant to be used as a safety net for other detection methods, is by searching for radiolucencies below the occlusal surface on a bite wing. Can you spot the occlusal lesion on this film? Wow, great job. You know what, y'all? This quarantine life has me pretty tired. I'll let Candace take it from here.
Okay, so we've heard a lot about how an explorer shouldn't be used in caries detection, and you're probably wondering, what can I use an explorer for? Great question. So an explorer is really good when we have an exposure of dentin, and in that case you can gently use it to notice the texture difference from enamel into dentin. The side of an explorer is also super useful when you're trying to remove biofilm off of teeth, so you can use that on the axial surfaces, just like gently using the side to kind of loosely scrape off any biofilm that might be present. And it's also super helpful when you're trying to feel the texture of a lesion, so we know that inactive lesions are pretty smooth, glossy looking, and that active lesions are a little more rough and opaque looking. So when we're trying to feel these lesions, we can use our explorer at about a 30-degree angle and just gently kind of use the tip of the explorer using our tactile sensation to see if we notice any changes in the enamel texture. Okay.
Another way you can detect occlusal caries is by using just your eyeballs to look for dark discoloration on the occlusal surface. An explorer will not be useful to detect these lesions because the surface enamel is still intact. When you see discoloration, this tells you that the enamel is undermined and that the dentin underneath is diseased. You can see in this picture where the undermined enamel looks discolored like a shadow. According to the ICDOS, the shadow appearance is often seen more easily when the tooth is wet, so you're not going to want to dry the teeth when you're looking for these types of caries. And the darkened area is an intrinsic shadow that may appear gray, blue, or even brown. So the undermined enamel would be everything covering that shadow.
All right, hey guys, Dr. Miller here. Today we're going to talk about U.S. Public Health Service criteria for caries identification. All right, so let's switch over to the overhead. All right, so we got 3 main points here. We're going to be looking at hand pieces down. Let's put the hand piece down, guys. All right, thank you. All right, so what we're going to be looking for this criteria, we're going to be looking at softening at the base of pit or fissure. All right, so what does that mean? All right, well, if we look at the tooth, all right, we've got our Explorer, okay? And again, we just talked about, we're not going to use this Explorer as our sole means for identification. All right, visual examination is much more accurate. All right, but we can feel these pits and fissures very, very gently. We can feel the softening in there, in the grooves. All right, that's going to be diseased enamel. That's going to have to be removed. All right, that's going to have to be removed. All right. Other things to look for: opacity surrounding that pit and fissure. All right, so light's not getting through. Got a white spot. All right, that's going to be visual examination. You don't even need your Explorer for that. All right, but softened enamel that can be flaked away. That's tactile. All right, so if you're touching this enamel and it's soft and it's just falling off, all right, that's diseased. That's caries for sure. All right, good deal, guys. Hey, stay safe out there. All right, stay at home. Dr. Miller signing off. Well, that's gonna.
ICDAS system has detection codes for coronal caries range from 0 to 6 depending upon the severity of the lesion. Here is the chart showing all ICDAS codes. Code 0 is when there is no visible signs of caries. Codes 1 and 2 both show some visible changes in enamel. However, code 1 is when the caries change is visible when the tooth is dry, and code 2 is when the caries is visible with moisture on the tooth. For codes 3 and 4, caries are extending into the middle third of the dentin. Code 5 is when the dentin is visible, and code 6 is when caries involve more than half of the tooth structure.
Wow, Urja, that was some great information. Now, there are two tools that are needed in order to help you confirm your visual assessment of caries. The first is an air syringe, and the second is the WHO probe. You heard that right, the WHO probe. So, by using the air syringe to dry the tooth, you will then use your WHO probe to gently go across the tooth surface and confirm any visual assessment you have of the carious lesion. Now, the WHO probe is not like a wine corkscrew, and instead looks like a marquee probe with a little ball at the end, kind of like this. So the little ball at the end is to help prevent any further damage to the carious lesion that would happen as if you were trying to do it with an Explorer. Now, on to you, Joel.
Okay guys, so I want to just go over one of the main topics of today's presentation, which is the fact that our primary tool for pit and fissure caries diagnosis is our eyes, not an Explorer. We all know that an Explorer can cause more damage if used improperly, so we must avoid using that if at all possible. In this image here, we can see that there's an obvious discoloration. That alone leads us to believe that there is some caries there, and there's no need to use an Explorer. This image here is also pretty indicative of caries because you can see a slight discoloration right around that area that, you know, it's a pretty big sign that there may be, some caries there. And if not 100% sure, you can always go to your radiographs, which will give you somewhat of a shadow, if caries are present. So once again, it's very important to use our eyes clinically to really properly diagnose caries, and not our Explorer, because our Explorer can indeed lead to more problems. Thank you.